This is CBC Here and Now.
This facility will be 150,000 square feet. It'll produce 12,000 kilograms of cannabis, 145 jobs, 60 future retail jobs.
28 retail locations right now, an online presence, and potentially 7 more.
I think it's largely a missed opportunity for small business owners. What you see is mostly an activity that's going to be run by the government and big business, really.
The list is out. 24 pot shops get the go-ahead to start selling weed. Good evening, I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Jeremy Eaton. We are just months away from being able to legally buy pot in Canada, and the province is rolling along with its plans.
Here Now's Megan McCabe was there for today's big announcement, and she joins us live now. Megan, I see that you're outside a Dominion grocery store. What's the connection?
Right, well, Dominion, or more specifically the national mega corporation Loblaw, was the biggest winner of today with 10 successful applications to sell cannabis in the province, including at this location here in West End, St. John's. Now, the NLC, that's the Newfoundland and Labrador Liquor Corporation, is responsible for selling pot legally, and other provinces like Ontario have done the same thing. But the liquor stores won't actually be selling cannabis. Instead, the corporation put out a request for those wanting to be a licensed pot retailer. 86 applied, and today, 24 made it past the initial sniff test. The NLC did not name any of the unsuccessful applicants, but I can say that it doesn't look like any of the shops currently selling weed illegally made the cut. Most of them are big, familiar names.
It's somewhat challenging for a retailer right now with a brand new industry. So I guess I'm not surprised by the fact that the majority are established retailers. However, as you say, we do have a couple that it is a brand new business.
Okay, so Megan, Dominion selling legal marijuana. Does this mean we just drop by the chip section and pick up a bag of weed next to that?
Well, that's the image you get when you think of grocery stores selling weed, but no, it won't look like that. There are still a lot of details yet to be worked out, like what products will be for sale and what the pricing will be, but keep in mind this is regulated by the government. So you can think of it more like buying cigarettes. At Dominion, for example, it'll be sold in the separate smoke shops.
Viewing for minors would be incidental. So people under the age of 19. So the Loblaw experience would be very much you're at the counter, you choose what you want, and they package it up for you. So that's certainly not picking it up alongside your cereal.
These 24 successful applicants aren't in the clear just yet. Next, they have site inspections and training. And the NLC still has to figure out its online retailer. And they're also still looking for proposals in 6 parts of the province, some of which they just didn't get one in that area. And the corporation does say that it is on track for legal weed on July 1st, and if it's a little bit later, that's just gravy. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Megan McCabe in St. John's.
Well, after the news announcement this afternoon, the head of this province's Canadian Federation of Independent Business tweeted about the news, wondering if some of the smaller retailers will actually make it to the next step in the NLC's process.
I think it's largely a missed opportunity for small business owners. I think what you see is mostly an activity that's going to be run by the government and big business, really. The structure of the RFP to begin with was more or less made it difficult for small business owners to even come up with an operation that could even meet their requirements and criteria. So we expressed those concerns to the government and NLC, but unfortunately they continued on with the RFP process, and now what you see today is what we got. Even when the price is identified for many that won today, aside from the larger businesses, they're going to try to determine then, I guess, what their plans will be going forward.
Now, you can read more about today's announcement and follow the link to the full list of legal pot shops on our website. Look for the story at cbc.ca/NL.
We now know where the weed will be sold, but where is it coming from? Here Now's Terry Roberts has some answers to that question. The country's largest producer of cannabis is about to establish a very large footprint in this province.
So it's not much to look at right now, but the earth is about to start moving at this site here on Eastland Drive in the White Hills. A massive new building will start going up here next month. and it will eventually become one of the largest indoor cannabis growing facilities in the country. The rain didn't stop the symbolism. Shovels going into the ground to mark the beginning of a new era in this province, the legalization of recreational marijuana. And much of it will be produced right here by an Ontario company called Canopy Growth. But still plenty of questions. So how much is that joint going to cost me?
It's a good question. I don't know yet, but you'll have to stay tuned, and we'll be sure to share that price list with consumers when the time is right. Construction to begin in June, ready for production by late next year. No small operation. This facility will be 150,000 square feet, 145 jobs here, 60 future retail jobs. Annual cannabis production of 15,000 kilograms, most to be sold locally as part of an agreement with the province to secure a safe and reliable source of cannabis, but also exported elsewhere.
It's great to have a flagship like Canopy here in the province.
The sole source deal was signed late last year. Canopy will get a 10% break on its remittances to the Liquor Corporation until its investment is paid off, up to $40 million. But government denies this is the equivalent to a monopoly.
Everybody has equal opportunity when it comes to if they want to establish a production facility in Newfoundland and Labrador. We're certainly open for business.
As for location, next to the regional landfill, down the road from the Liquor Corporation and the National Police Force Provincial HQ, symbolic of the monumental change on the way. Now, Canopy also unveiled its plans for its retail stores. For example, there'll be one right here at the production facility. There'll be one on Water Street, one on Kenmount Road, and another in Corner Brook on Broadway. Canopy also applied for 2 more stores here in St. John's. Now, this will be a very competitive industry, and Canopy is signaling its intentions to be a dominant player. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
In a marijuana-related story now, the town of Paradise is defending its handling of a recent request for information. It initially refused to say who was behind a plan to grow medical marijuana. Officials claimed that provincial privacy laws required that to remain a secret. But after receiving a formal request under that very same law, they decided to release the information. The town has been in the news several times over the past few months over transparency issues, and it's fighting the privacy commissioner in court over one of those.
It's been a whirlwind year, to say the least.
Paralyzed in her left side after a stroke, 6 months later, she has a much happier story to tell. That's coming up.
Several Muskrat Falls protesters took their fight to Ottawa this afternoon, and then they were arrested on Parliament Hill.
We've tried everything else. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what else to do.
That's Marjorie Flowers, an elder with the group that calls itself the Labrador Land Protectors. You can see police there escorting her away. The group continues to protest the risk of methylmercury poisoning when the Muskrat Falls Reservoir will be flooded. Now, that arrest came just minutes after a heated exchange with Labrador MP Yvonne Jones. Eldred Davis Elders Jim Learning and Eldred Davis were also detained. The protesters have reportedly been released, but they're banned from Parliament Hill for 90 days.
Water is not bottled water. Our water comes from downstream of that big river in Labrador, and we depend on that river to stay safe and clean. And my people in Riglet have been living that way for thousands of years and depend on that. This is no joke. This is not something that we bought off by $9.2 billion or any other federal loan guarantees that you might have up your sleeve. This is important. This is deathly. This is beyond words. I get like this and I can't begin to describe what's happening here.
Genocide.
It's genocide, yes. It's definitely genocide.
Raymond Stacey has been charged with the attempted murder of his wife. Stacey made the news several years ago when he was accused of murdering a co-worker, Clifford Comerford. Now, Stacey was found not guilty, but Comerford's family still maintains that Stacey did it. Glenn Payette with that story.
His neck heavily tattooed, Ray Stacey was brought into court in St. John's today. Stacey is charged with the attempted murder of his estranged wife in Paradise on Saturday. And in the courtroom today were the members of another family, the Comerfords. Stacy was accused of killing Clifford Comerford in 2015, but a jury found him not guilty. Despite the verdict, the Comerford family has always maintained that Stacy did it. Clifford's brother, Trent Comerford, says he wanted to see Stacy being brought in today.
On the 19th of December 2016, Mr. Stacy was acquitted of my brother's murder. And knowing wholeheartedly, we know as a family, and I'd say all of Newfoundland and Labrador, maybe even Canada, know that he got away with murder. And we feel that when it happened on the 19th of December, we knew that he was guilty. And we said it was only a matter of time that he was going to try to kill somebody again.
Lawyer Bob Buckingham represented Stacy at the murder trial.
The evidence came out and showed that, in fact, it was Mr. Cliff Comerford, who passed away, that he was the aggressor. Then he attacked Mr. Stacy in the back of that van that day. And 2 days previous, he had his friend, Luke Yannick, attack Mr. Stacy. And so, Ray is not guilty, was not guilty, was presumed innocent. And unfortunately, you're dealing with significant grief, and the Comerford family are not going to change their position.
Stacy is facing 13 charges for what allegedly happened on Saturday, including the attempted murder of his wife, an aggravated assault on her, and assaulting her. After the alleged attack, Stacy is accused of hijacking a car to get away, but ended up smashing it into a concrete post. Back when Stacy was acquitted of the murder, Buckingham said Stacy wanted to be a law-abiding citizen.
It's really nice to see, Mr. Stacy, that it is not a law-abiding citizen, Mr. Buckingham.
Mr. Stacy is presumed innocent on these new charges. And let's understand, just as he was presumed innocent with respect to the murder charge.
Buckingham says that if Stacy can get a certificate from legal aid, he will represent him again. Stacy's back in court later this month. Glenn Payette, CBC News, St. John's.
Okay, let's shift things along to the weather. Ryan's obviously here. Good to see you.
Nice to be here, and talking about some sunshine and some warming temperatures as well across the island over the next day or so. Labrador, the opposite, where we have a system coming in with snow over the weekend there, and a little more snow on the way for tonight into tomorrow. Not the scene right now. Have a look at this webcam shot. Beautiful stuff, lots of sunshine, although temperatures at the freezing mark, so you can see the snow off in the distance there at the Wabash Airport. Still quite early spring-like across the big land right now. But there's the area of high pressure that's been dominating through today in Labrador. There's the low that's been bringing rain to the island today. That is departing, and that area of high pressure slides from Labrador over to Newfoundland for Tuesday. Looking at a cool start, but a bright start to the day. And in fact, sunshine holds on for most of us. There's the system that's on the way for Labrador, tracking in through the day tomorrow. We're talking about showers for most by the time we get to the afternoon, but certainly some snow on the leading edge of this, and perhaps as much as 2 to 5 centimeters for places like Western Labrador and up towards the north coast. And then that system will slide through Newfoundland for Tuesday night. Risk of a shower or two, but generally the general theme here over the next couple of days is more sunshine. Area of high pressure following that system, and another nice one for Wednesday, and even into Thursday that sunshine will likely hold. We'll break down that forecast in detail coming up in just a few minutes. Anthony.
Thank you, Ryan. Well, CBC got an inside look at the Corner Brook Pulp and Paper Mill as 4,000 tons of newsprint filled a vessel bound for India. This is the first shipment of its kind as the mill shifts its focus to markets outside the United States. Why? Well, that's because all newsprint that's being shipped to the United States faces huge duties. Here Now's Colleen Connors has this report.
This vessel from Splitoff actually will take 4,000 tons of India production. Paper is stored in our paper sheds. We have 3. The total capacity is about 20,000 tons. As we've said, this vessel is taking 4,000 tons, so clamp trucks will actually access the cargo within number 2 shed and will actually transport out to the side of the vessel. This vessel is a side loader, and the trucks will then place the rolls on elevators, which are then lowered down into the hold of the ship. From within the vessel, our employees will actually drive the clamp trucks and take the rolls from the elevators and then stow in the vessel. There are 2 decks that are then filled, and then at completion of stowing, they are secured for transport onwards by ocean.
that the ability to move this paper at a cost-effective manner to India just shows great potential for the mill and for the community. I think there's an opportunity right here to be had. So it's just a matter of making sure that everyone does their best, keeps the costs in order, and I think that there's great possibilities with the growing market in India versus in North America where it's actually receding. The impact of the tariffs have forced Kruger to look at all their markets, and they're really taking advantage of it. They're doing the best they can, and we're here to help them. We're here to make it work. It's changed our market. We're facing the same difficulties. We rely on our clients being successful. When they're not, we suffer. So we really are also feeling the pain of the changing market, which is rather abrupt and unexpected.
Well, we ship into the U.S., of course. At the beginning of the year, we were about 65% into the U.S. That is reducing as we move into the export markets. We project by this summer to be in the order of 40%. We do ship also across to the U.K. We have shipped into Germany. And we do ship also around the world. The next vessel that will depart for India will be in the near future. It will depend on us producing inventory. Once we've reached sufficient inventory for a vessel such as this, we'll schedule it. We expect within the next month. And we hope that to be something that occurs continually through the year as we expand our markets into export areas.
Well, DFO released the news that recreational salmon anglers have been nervously waiting for about the upcoming season. Anglers will be allowed to keep one salmon on any river in the province where retention was permitted last year. The department says it will do a mid-season review to determine how the fishery will be managed for the second half of the 2018 season. The number of salmon that anglers will be allowed to catch and release per day has been reduced to 3. The season opens on June the 1st.
St. John's runner David Freak won the Toronto Marathon on Sunday. The 31-year-old finished first ahead of about 1,400 other runners. His closest competition was 8.5 minutes behind him. Freak was just 8 seconds off his personal best, which he actually ran in last year's Toronto's Marathon.
It was a great day for us, perfect conditions. I was going for our provincial record of 2:24, but I went out a little spicy. I was like 34 flat for 10K by myself at that point. So I probably went too hard. But after I realized that I had the lead by that much, I just tried to hold it.
Yeah, that must be really difficult.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling right now?
I'm definitely happy, but I'm hurting. I'll be taking a few off days afterwards for sure.
Okay, and last question, what are you going to do to celebrate? I mean, we see that medal there, so it's
yeah.
an amazing accomplishment.
I'm going to probably go and get a big steak, perhaps a beer, hang out, and I'll head home back to St. John's.
Yeah, I think you can actually afford those calories now after that 2.5. Now, it's worth noting that former Telly 10 women's champion Ann Johnston from St. John's was second among the 437 female finishers in just under 3 hours. Kind of like your time.
Yeah, he said he ran with 34 minutes in a 10K. I can do 48. And Charlie Corvallis of St. John's finished 5th in that race as well.
I'm really proud of these women that they made such an enormous contribution and that they helped the soldiers so much. I feel like without them, we really wouldn't have won the war.
The best student history projects on display at the Avalon Regional Heritage Fair. We'll hear from some of those students about why the past matters. That's just ahead.
A hockey tournament this weekend in St. John's raised hundreds of thousands for the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Hockey Heroes Weekend sees local rec hockey players team up with NHL legends to compete to raise money. The women's team, the Tomcats, split to create 2 co-ed teams for the weekend. As a whole, the tournament raised about $300,000 for the Heart and Stroke Foundation.
I come actually once a year. This weekend, it's carved out of my calendar every year. I've been playing with the same team, bunch of girls, the Tomcats, and unbelievable.
It was something that I wasn't going to pass up on. Coming to St. John's was a great opportunity, doing something good for a charity, and of course meeting people, playing hockey and having fun. So you mix that all together, it was a definite yes.
Well, now we have a story of love and perseverance for a couple from central Newfoundland. We first brought you the story of Carly and Nathaniel White last summer when 27-year-old Carly suffered a major stroke. 9 months later, the couple has a much happier story. Here now is Ryan Cook has that for you.
We met Carly White in August, paralyzed in her left side and her throat. She couldn't walk. Her voice was barely a whisper. She had spent 2 years trying to have a baby with her husband Nathaniel, and now it seemed that was dashed. The fact that she was even alive after misdiagnosing an ischemic stroke as a migraine is nothing short of miraculous. But it turns out surviving the stroke was just the first gift. This is Carly White today.
3 months after I had my stroke, Nathaniel and I got pregnant, and now I'm 6 months pregnant. So it was a complete shocker to us. It was almost like a mind blow, especially after the events of last summer, and I'm actually due 3 or 4 days after my stroke anniversary.
Carly focused on nutrition after the stroke. She went from being thin and frail to gaining healthy weight. They never lost sight of what they wanted, a child.
I never thought that it would happen like this quick after, but I guess they say everything happens for a reason, and I guess as sad as it is to say and bad as it is to say, I needed the stroke to be able to have children.
In the days and weeks after her stroke, Carly leaned on her husband for support. We first met Nathaniel last summer while Carly was still in a coma. At that point, doctors had made attempts to wake her, but were unsuccessful. Everything was still touch and go.
What's that emotional roller coaster like to go through that and come out with good news?
It's a complete 180, you know, like life can change drastically from better to worse and worse to better, so it's great to experience the blessing we got.
Carly says it's been a crazy year, but through it all, hope remained.
As much as it was a horrible circumstances, things always get better at the very end is all I can say. I mean, you know, I'm literally living proof of that. They didn't give me much time or anything like that and told me that if I didn't go to the hospital when I did, then I probably wouldn't be here, and here I am with Alana, 6 months pregnant.
Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Things can really turn around. Another story, I got to spend a big chunk of the weekend with some really bright students who care about Newfoundland and Labrador history. 155 of the best projects were on display for the public and the judges at the Avalon Regional Heritage Fair. On Saturday, the gym at Amalgamated Academy in Bay Roberts was packed for the competition, and so I broke out the old smartphone and talked to several of the students about their topics.
I'm Olivia Moore, and this is
Caitlin Smith.
And we go to Walden Elementary. We decided to do traditional NL baking because
our Nan always makes bread, and we wanted to learn how to make bread.
We have the baking utensils, and then in the middle we have us making the bread with Caitlin's Nan.
Well, I did my project on Atlantic salmon in Newfoundland, how it has evolved over time, and how in the past we used nets. There's no commercial salmon fishery anymore, and now there is salmon farming. I don't really like salmon farming due to the impacts on us, and through interbreeding and while traveling upriver, they have spread various diseases. So my project is Sprung Greenhouse, which took place in 1987. It happened when the Newfoundland government partnered with a Calgary businessman named Philip Sprung. The government of Newfoundland spent $22 million to build these 8 greenhouses which took place in Mount Pearl. The project ended 2 years after it started. If they had grown like turnips or something that Newfoundlanders ate at the time, it would have worked out. Even if they had pickled the cucumbers, it would have worked. But they were just growing cucumbers for Newfoundlanders, which wasn't really a Newfoundland food.
So my project's on the Women's Patriotic Association, and that was an organization during the First World War that knit comfort items such as hats and socks for the soldiers fighting overseas. They also raised over $500,000, which is equal to $6.5 million today. I felt that the women of Newfoundland, they weren't really represented in the First World War. I'm really proud of these women that they made such an enormous contribution and that they helped the soldiers so much. I feel like without them, we really wouldn't have won the war.
The project's about Peter Easton. He's a cool pirate. Fighted some different pirates like the French and Spanish. He used to be good, but now he's turning out to be bad.
Our project is on Girl Guiding. We chose this project because our parents were in Girl Guiding. So I think it's an amazing thing to be passed down to other people, so we're hoping to pass it down.
It will help you later on in life, like it show that girl got power, same as boys.
It's like girls can do whatever boys can do, maybe even better.
My name is JL Golding, and I go to Amalgamated Academy, and my Heritage Fair project is about farming honeybees. My pop is a honeybee farmer, and he makes products like honey, creams, candles, and he sells them in Paradise. Newfoundland is one of the only provinces that bee populations are rising because we don't have pesticides or ticks, or we don't use any medicine that would like to kill our bees. And we're nice and clean. Like Newfoundland, the bees and our honey is stunning. It's very amazing.
Yep. The bee's knees. Yeah, some smart kids out there. Now, I should point out, Jeremy, that Emma, the young woman who was in costume, grade 8 student who looked at the Women's Patriotic Association, well, she and 8 other students were rewarded with all expense paid trips to France, where they're going to visit Beaumont Hamel and other battlefields. And that trip happens right at the end of the school year, so congratulations.
So that's 9 for the Avalon, and then there's another 10 students from the rest of the province who can also earn one of these trips to France. You know, Anthony, if they offered that up when I was a kid, I might have studied.
Yeah, a bit of an incentive there. There's hope.
And in the woods, in the trail, there's just as much in the woods.
The mayor of Botwood calls it a terrible problem. Why are people throwing garbage along the town's trails?
Well, welcome back. Well, yesterday, bit of wind. Did you get outside?
Yeah, well, that was...
Did you go for a run, Jeremy?
No, for some reason I didn't. But we were all talking about how it was so windy. I guess it was a little bit windier than we expected.
Yeah, it was like moving in slow motion yesterday against the wind. Right?
That's right, resistance training, right? Yeah. As windy as it was for us, of course, nothing compared to what they had in southern Ontario, still without power, are my parents this hour. They lost it on Friday.
You're still out?
Yeah. Thankfully, Dad's got a generator.
If only they knew somebody at the CBC they could call to do an interview.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, I digress. We do have that wind has moved offshore and lighter winds today. Temperature's not doing too bad right now. We have 7 degrees in St. John's and 7 in Badger. Yeah, those strongest winds have now pushed offshore with that system. We can still see some sustained winds right now near 30 in St. John's, 30 to 40 from Bonavista to St. Lawrence and back across to the west coast, where we're looking at some sustained winds in that 20 to 30 kilometer per hour range as well. Again, a lot lighter than they were yesterday. That system, there it goes. A few lingering showers not out of the question along the northeast coast this evening on the tail end of that as it does move out to the North Atlantic. But the area of high pressure moving in, this is going to be the main weather player for the island over the next 24 hours, which means lots of sunshine. Looking like a pretty nice day. You're going to want to remember the sunglasses for tomorrow. This is the next low that's moving in, and it's going to be a quick mover, not a big precipitation maker, but perhaps enough to drop another 5 centimeters in places like western Labrador and across to the north coast. Here is how things are going to play out. Again, the precip ending along that northeast coast. By the time we get to tomorrow morning, it's a very nice start across the island. Lots of sunshine. And there's that snow just starting to edge in to western parts of Labrador through the overnight, and by tomorrow morning, again, waking up to perhaps a little bit of accumulation to dust off the car. -8 will be your start there. -10 in Nain. -1 in the Happy Valley Goose Bay as winds do shift to a little more southwesterly overnight. We're starting in the -2 range for inland low-lying areas of central Newfoundland, so certainly a little on the cool side to start. Now, through the day tomorrow, we'll see a bit of high cloud cover kicking up along parts of the west coast, but generally it is a very nice one. These are your wind gusts, and so we are talking about winds picking up a little bit into the afternoon, perhaps some gusts in the 60 to 70 kilometer per hour range for Corner Brook. There's a wind warning in effect for the Canada Bay area along the northern peninsula, where gusts could reach 80 to 100 there, and we are talking about the shower activity moving in and taking over after that initial line of snow through the overnight and into tomorrow morning. It will transition over to some showers into the afternoon as temperatures rise. So southwest winds this time of year, the nature of the beast is cooler in those onshore winds, of course, and we are talking about 5 to 6 degrees in those onshore winds. Move your way inland and you're going to find double digits tomorrow in the 10, 11, 12 degree range. Across the southeast parts of Labrador, again, we're talking about 4 or 5 degrees. Likely staying snow for most of the day in Nain, perhaps a little bit of wet snow mixing in there, but everybody else transitioning over. Quick look ahead. This line will work through for Tuesday night into Wednesday, but generally Wednesday is another nice day across the island. Some windy conditions along the coast of Labrador, gusts 80 to 90 kilometers per hour with some lingering flurries, but more double digits on the island. We'll talk about Thursday and, of course, walk you right through the weekend with your 7-day coming up. Anthony?
A parody song about the Springdale crosswalk controversy is going viral. Last month, the town council denied a request for a rainbow-painted crosswalk from the Gender Sexuality Alliance at Indian River High School. This weekend, CBS musician Jessica Bemister says she couldn't fall asleep, so at 3 o'clock in the morning, she got up and wrote these lyrics.
Newfoundland, town of Springdale, have them graded, give them one big major fail. Indian River School wanted a rainbow crosswalk. They all got together, said we have to talk. A meeting was called, discussed at town hall. They couldn't come to a decision at all. A meeting was called, discussed at town hall. It went on for days. It went on for days. Buys, 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 come on, buys, 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 come on, buys, 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 come on, buys, 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 buys. Just paint the crosswalk.
Staying in central Newfoundland, the mayor of Botwood says despite the town's best efforts, some people are still dumping their garbage on public land.
What a state.
This recently posted Facebook video illustrates the problem rather graphically. The town's mayor, Scott Sevier, says it's been an ongoing issue ever since the town closed its own dump 2 decades ago. He says twice a week people can bring their bulk garbage to a transfer station in town, but Sevier says a few people aren't cooperating, and he says that's a terrible problem. Sevier adds that next week town workers will clean up a couple of areas, and volunteers are planning to organize a community cleanup.
A grandmother is fighting for custody of a granddaughter she didn't know she had. She says the governments of British Columbia and Manitoba kept the girl's birth from her for almost 2 years, putting the child in foster care instead. Now she's going public, and the CBC's Rosa Marcatelli has her story.
A very key piece of information came out during a meeting with a Manitoba Child Services worker in January. Sandra Fiddler was handed a piece of paper with a little girl's name and birth date on it. She was told that little girl is her granddaughter and in foster care in British Columbia. The girl was born to Fiddler's daughter, who struggles with addiction.
We would have taken that child in a heartbeat. So she would be with family, grandmother, family that loves her, instead of a foster family and going from home to home.
Fiddler wonders why she was kept in the dark for so long. She's raising the girl's 3 siblings and would like to have the children grow up together. When she asked why she wasn't told about the little girl, she says social workers told her she had too much on her plate and her daughter didn't want her to have custody. But both the girl's biological parents, who can't be identified, tell Go Public they do want Fiddler to have custody. This former social worker turned professor calls the situation inconceivable.
It's very mysterious to me how this came about, that this very central piece of how child welfare workers are trained and how they're directed, how the legislation and policy frames their job, they acted in contravention of all of that.
In emails to Go Public, BC's Minister of Children and Family Development tells us she trusts staff are exploring this matter thoroughly. Manitoba says if there are viable family options, that is always the best option. After Go Public started asking questions, the BC government paid for Fiddler to visit the little girl for the first time. We caught up with her again right after that visit.
There's no words. It was so exciting. I got to hold her. She gave me a hug. We had her face to face. It was such a beautiful feeling.
But she's no closer to bringing the little girl home, and she's running out of options. Fiddler says she's finding it hard to navigate the system and is hoping for help. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
Dominion will soon start dealing pot. 10 of the Dominion's grocery stores across the province got a license to sell marijuana when it becomes legal. A couple of smaller businesses were on that approved list. We'll hear from one of them next. Among the 24 retailers who got approval by the NLC was Thomas Clark. His company, THC Distribution, will operate in Portugal Cove, St. Phillips. Now, Clark has been pushing for locals to get involved in the pot program. He and I spoke earlier today, and I started by asking him how it felt to finally get a license.
I feel really good. I feel like a lot of my hard work is paid off. When I see the other companies who've gotten licenses, I feel rather lucky. You know, as a Tier 1 shop owner, there's not very many licenses that were handed out. Loblaws got the most licenses, and that concerns me a little bit because I was hoping that more local entrepreneurs would have a chance to open their businesses and keep the money here and keep the jobs here rather than big corporations taking over. I'm really happy. I'm happy that the province and the NLC has gotten us to this point, and I'm really happy that I got my license. I can't wait to start serving the cannabis customers in Newfoundland.
And did you get any response from the NLC about how this is all going to work or how it's going to roll out in the next couple of weeks?
Well, they let me know that in the next 5 days that they'll be in touch with me to let me know what the next process of the licensing process is going to be. I imagine now I'm going to have to do my renovations and get the municipal approval and all these things that I have to have checked off before I get the license. So I imagine I'll have a sit down with the NLC within the next 5 days and find out where we go from there.
Now, late last year we had you on the St. John's Morning Show. You've also been here on Here and Now talking about the price. Were you surprised that the government hasn't laid out a price yet on how much a gram of weed will go for?
Well, I know that the federal government is saying it's going to be around $10. I'm hoping it's going to be lower than that here in the province. In order to get the black market out of the cannabis industry, you're going to have to sell it between $5 and $7 a gram plus tax. So I hope that the prices that we will be allowed to sell it for will be at the high end $7 or $8. Right now, the shops that are selling cannabis downtown are selling cannabis for $12, $13, $14 a gram, and they're making big money doing that. And I hope that we can bring the black market into the legal market, because if the price is too high, then the black market is going to continue to thrive.
And how much of a percentage will you get of the grams that you sell at your retail shop?
Well, the NLC has laid out the commission structure as 8%. Now that I've been awarded the license and going through this process, I'd like to get together with all the other people who have been given licenses and see if we can find a way to speak to the NLC about that, because the 8% commission is not very much money if I'm opening a standalone cannabis shop and I'm going to be feeding my family and have employees and security and overhead expenses. It's really not a lot of money. Now, I think I'll be able to do okay at 8%, but I'd like to get all the shop owners together to sit down with the NLC to find out if there's a better commission structure, just as the provincial government did with the feds on the dollar tax. They wanted to have a larger share. I think there should be a way that we can get a little more than 8% anyway.
People have been buying weed for a long, long time here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Do you think it's going to be hard to attract people from buying it from the black market, as you say, to going in and buying it from a storefront from yourself there in Portugal Cove, St. Phillips?
Well, it will be hard at first. People are used to going to their drug dealer. A lot of people are ordering their cannabis online right now as well. The benefit of coming to my shop is you're going to know what you're getting. You're going to have an expert. Myself and my employees that I'll have hired are going to be cannabis experts. I've been around the cannabis industry for over 30 years. They just did a High Times article on me in this month's issue. So hopefully people will want to come in from the black market. With the black market, you don't know if the cannabis is grown organically. You don't know what kind of chemicals are still in it. You don't know if the cannabis has been flushed properly, and you don't know the percentages of THC and CBD in the marijuana. So it'll make a difference to a lot of people. But like I said, if the black market price is cheaper, then they'll hold on to their lion's share of customers.
Well, man, I wish you the best of luck, and I appreciate your time today. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
So he's had 30 years experience in and around the cannabis industry, so he obviously knows what he's talking about.
Certainly does.
Good to see one of the smaller players, because earlier on Here Now, Megan McCabe, 10 Dominions?
10 Dominion stores, yeah, were picked.
And apparently during the newscast, one of our producers found out that Sobeys apparently has decided it wants
nothing to do with this.
No part of this, and they have no intention of going down this route. So be interested to see how they react once Dominion sells out every bag of chips and gummy bear that they've got in there. Maybe Sobeys might change.
It's a win-win, buy a bit of weed, get a few snacks, you never know.
All right, well, let's introduce our young athlete of the day, 5-year-old Benjamin Budgell.
Benjamin is currently learning to play hockey with the Mount Pearl Minor Hockey Association. He also takes swimming lessons and plays soccer in the summer.
And he's the grandson of Chloe Budgell, who worked at CBC here in St. John's for many years.
Yep, she certainly did. Congratulations.
You know, I love spring. So you get the severe weather storms, which of course I love to track south of the border, and just the huge temperature contrasts. Still snow across parts of Canada, of course, including Labrador. But look at this, 31 degrees, the high in Winnipeg today. Yeah.
You know what that is? That's those Jets.
Absolutely.
Winnipeg Jets are raising the temperature of that great city in the prairie.
Yeah, hopefully, you know what? Hopefully it doesn't affect the ice too much at MTS Center tonight, as Winnipeg looks, of course, to move through to the conference finals against Nashville. So that's obviously going to be a dandy game there, and great for all the folks watching outdoors this evening in the Winnipeg region, although there is some rain moving in there. Now, that low that's moving through southern Manitoba and that low that I just showed you off to the southern parts of the U.S., those will combine, and those are going to be our late week weather maker. Ahead of that, though, things are looking pretty good. We've got this area of high pressure over the island. Pretty nice day for tomorrow. Some flurries mixed with showers rolling across Labrador after a little bit of light snow tonight, as much as 2 to 5 centimeters. Now for Tuesday evening, Northern Peninsula, then Corner Brook, then Central by Wednesday morning. This may bring a couple of spits, but it's running out of steam, and I don't think we'll see much more than a bit of cloud cover over eastern Newfoundland for Wednesday afternoon under a mix of sun and cloud. Another area of high pressure follows that. That'll hold strong into Thursday, bringing even more sunshine. So a pretty nice 3-day stretch here shaping up across the island. And then our next system will start to track into Labrador with more in the way of rain mixing back to snow as temperatures drop on the other side of this system. Friday does look like a wet one if you have some plans on the island. Keep that in mind. Looks like a bit of a 1-2 wave here in terms of those showers that'll be rolling through. By the time we get to Saturday, however, another area of high pressure coming in, and that means at least some sun breaks in the mix. Wouldn't be surprised if the cloud cover does dominate a bit on Saturday. Better chance of some sun for the Sunday morning time period, but it appears that area of high pressure will hold strong into the afternoon at least before our next system will start to roll in for Monday. Temperature-wise, we're not far off seasonal over the next 7 days, which is great news. Hopefully get those trees blossoming and the flowers in the gardens will start to springing up. You can see where temperatures a little cool western Newfoundland Friday. That is thanks to a cold front that will be coming through, and temperatures will drop central and then eastern parts of Newfoundland for Friday night into Saturday morning, then rebounding. And then for Happy Valley, Goose Bay and Labrador City, we're talking about that possibility of a bit of snow tonight. Transitioning over to some showers Tuesday afternoon, a cool one in behind that system Wednesday. We're shooting back up temperature-wise Thursday and into Friday with, again, another little cool shot coming into the weekend. And then Sunday, temperatures rebound once again. So that's your 7-day forecast there, and we'll keep you posted on that over the next few days.
Emergency officials on Hawaii's Big Island are urging people living near an active volcano to leave immediately. Recent eruptions have forced nearly 2,000 people to flee so far, and more than 24 homes have been destroyed.
As you go down the hill, you can see that Leilani Avenue doesn't exist anymore. There's a black lava thing, and everything's all gone.
My neighbor Larry, his house is burning down, so it's real. It's hitting.
Those living on an estate less than 20 kilometers from the volcano have been ordered out. Many have headed for emergency shelters. The volcano is spewing lava and toxic gas through vents in the ground. Now, there are no reports of any deaths or major injuries so far. This is the most active volcano in Hawaii. Experts say the eruptions and gas leaks aren't expected to stop anytime soon. Now, eruptions back in 1955 lasted for 88 days.
Back in Canada now, some good news for flood-weary New Brunswick. Officials in St. John expect that the water there may finally peak by the end of today.
River levels are becoming stable and not anticipated to change dramatically upward.
It could take many more days, though, before water in the St. John River's lower basin begins to recede. But water levels aren't the only danger. Officials are also worried about what's in it. Many sewage systems across the flood zone are overflowing. The water may also be polluted with dead animals and fecal matter. Residents are being advised to keep well clear of the water wherever possible.
All right, our weather picture of the day.
Simple, easy.
Easy peasy.
Do you want any clues, or should we just leave it?
None needed.
Okay.
We know what we're talking about. Don't want to ruin it for the audience, though.
That's right, that's right. So we will reveal the answer after the break.
I was actually there with Jeremy.
We were there not too long ago. We can bore you with that story later.
All right.
Welcome back.
I'm looking forward to the story, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, it's a really good one.
Yeah, Jeremy really sold that well before the commercial, you say, in the business.
That's right. So you guys were out here, of course, with all the flooding in the western parts of Newfoundland. I guess a couple of months ago, 3 months ago?
January, I believe.
And beautiful picture here, no doubt. And we zoom in case you didn't pick it up, to the road into Trout River. And a great shot here. You can see the spring melt is on. Still a little bit of snow there, obviously, at the tablelands, but great shot there. And thanks to Kay Howell West. Howell West, sorry.
Gorgeous spot.
Yeah,
I remember
beautiful
actually,
drive.
I can't remember if I was driving or Jeremy was driving, but you pull around this corner and it splits up like that, and you see it, and you just want to. We actually stopped the car.
So we did.
Just
I
take
got
a
up,
look.
took pictures.
Right.
We just took it all in.
Yeah.
And then I bored Anthony with some more stories. We
Yeah.
drove from St. John's to Corner Brook, and I don't think I stopped talking for 7.5 hours.
You? I think we actually got in kind of almost a matrimonial fight about directions, if I remember. No, it's left. No, it's right.
No, it's straight.
You get us lost all the time.
That's right. One side left, one side right, but it was actually straight.
There you go.
Yeah, beautiful area of the province, and
gorgeous.
boy, oh boy, I'm lucky enough to be there 3 times. You were lucky enough to work
I
out
did.
there.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time in Grosse Moor, spent a lot of time in that area, did a lot of hiking down in and around Trout River. And obviously, my biggest story ever was that whale, and that was
That's right. Trout River whale.
More tomorrow. Good night.
Good night, everyone.